God is not our buddy. If you ever make a vow to God, make sure that you repay it. If you don't do it, you are sure to be very, very sorry. I speak from grave personal experience. I want to read for you from Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 4. He says, "When you make a vow to God, do not be late in paying it, for he takes no delight in fools." Pay what you vow. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. When you're in trouble and you ask God to help you with something and you make a promise, make sure that you repay it. It's better not to make a vow. We read in the book of Judges about a man who made such a vow to God, and it was very bitter for him to repay it. Jephthah was one of the judges of Israel. We read in Judges chapter 11, verse 34. What happened is that Jephthah, as he promised God that if God would give him the victory over the foes, that the first one that came to him from his house, the first thing he would sacrifice. And Jephthah had one only daughter. And when he came back from his victory, she came out to dad. And Jephthah had to sacrifice her to God because he promised it. I read from verse 34. When Jephthah came to his house at Mizpah, behold, his daughter was coming out to meet him with tambourines and with dancing. Now she was a one and only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came about that when he saw her, that he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are among those who trouble me, for I have given my word to God, and I cannot take it back. It's a very sad story. She went and she mourned, and then she came back, and he had to pay his vow. He sacrificed her to God. It is horrible. We see that verse 39, and it came about at the end of 2 months that she returned to her father, who did to her according to the vow which he had made, and she had no relations with a man. Thus it became a custom in Israel, that the daughters of Israel went yearly to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite, 4 days in the sad story. I've got my own sad story, which I want to share with you. When I was 14 years old, a cousin of mine was in a severe car accident, and she lay in hospital and she was in a coma. And I made a promise to God. I prayed for my cousin, and she was also about 15 years old at the time. There was no hope for her. I promised God, I said, Lord, if you heal Thea and bring her back, then I will dedicate my life to you, and I will spread the gospel. I will go and I will be your servant. And God healed her miraculously. There was no hope for her. It was medically impossible for her to recover. It was a miracle. She's still alive today. But I did not keep my promise. I was a serious Christian at that stage, but young, and I became backslidden at the age of about 20, severely backslidden. I got married, I had children, I carried on with my life. I lived like God did not exist, although I knew God well. I just went away from God. And when I was 29 years old, married, kids, 2 little boys, I got a phone call at work. There had been an accident, and my wife was in that accident, and they took her to hospital. And when I stood in that hospital, severely backslidden, away from Jesus, that scene with my cousin came back to me, because here was my wife and she was in a very bad condition. I knew it was speaking to me, came back to me. I had made a vow to God, I had made a promise, and I never kept it. It was talking to me. And my wife was terminal. And I knew all along that I hadn't kept my vow. 3 weeks later, she passed away. She never recovered. She never came out of the coma. She was also in a terminal condition. I never repaid my vow, but a bit more than 10 years later, I stood at the grave of my wife. I was a widower, 2 little boys, 3 years old and 9 months old. I didn't repay my vow. I was foolish. I came back to God later. But I want to warn you today, friends, from my own experience, don't mess with God. Don't play with God. It is serious business. If you've made a vow to God, keep it. If you've made a vow to a spouse before God, keep it. God is not mocked, my friends. Don't make vows. Don't swear. That is why it's written, do not swear, neither by the heaven nor by the earth. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Do not swear. Take God seriously. If you've made a vow, repay it. And don't be foolish like I was and made a vow. I thank God that He extended His hand of mercy to me. I repented. I came back to Jesus, and I'm serving God. But I paid for my folly, for my foolishness. Before my wife passed away, she knew she was going to die, because she kept on telling me about a month before she died. She said, I'm not going to be here for long. I said, why? She says, no, I'm going to be with my granny. My granny's in heaven. And I said to her, don't be foolish, man. Don't talk nonsense. She knew it. And I think she was prepared. But people, don't play with God. Take God seriously. God is not our buddy. He's God Almighty. Don't take a vow if you don't intend keeping it. Just a warning from a friend and brother in Jesus. Jesus bless you.